Hey everyone, in this video we're going to take a quick look at Asset Forge. Asset Forge is an easy to use 3D modeling application. It's made by the same guys who make KenShape, which I've been covering on the channel recently, so I figured I'd take a look back at one of their previous efforts. So unlike applications like Blender, Asset Forge uses a process it refers to as kitbashing, which is, I believe, a reference to the real-world practice of taking pre-existing models, taking pieces from them, and creating a whole new model. And that's basically what you're going to do. You're going to take all these pre-existing shapes and combine them to make new objects. So let's take a quick look at the tool set, and then we'll get into a quick project to show you how it all works together. So in the upper left corner, we have the library, and you have the different categories. So you have some older as far as time periods like dungeons and castles, and newer stuff such as mechs and blasters, and you can just scroll down to the different categories. This is the Transform Translate tool. So if you have an object selected, it will show its position, its rotation, its scale, that kind of thing. And then this is the Material tool. Depending on what shapes you have here, it will show you the materials that are being used. In the upper right corner, this lets you switch which axis is being going to be modified. So that helps for the mirror tool and the rotation tool. So this is the mirror tool. So say you have an object and you want a symmetrical version of it, like a mirror image of it, you would use this. So let's say we use this object. So it kind of looks like a window. So maybe this is meant to be a car or something, like the, not a full car, but a portion of a car or the nose of a train or something. And this is a window. And you want another one on this side. So what you do is you create another one and then you just mirror image it. Don't think that is the right axis, though. I think I want that axis. Yes. So now you can see it's symmetrical. Rotate would not do that. If I clicked on this and I rotated it, it would just make it pointed backwards. So, be mindful of the difference between mirror and rotate. And speaking of rotate, this determines how many degrees each click rotates it. So you can see it's set at 90. So if I click on this and I rotate it, it rotated 90. There's a plus and minus side, so I could change this to say 45. And now it rotates by 45. So for our purposes, I want to leave this at 90. And we'll just delete those. And that's the overview of the tool set. So let's just get into a simple project. So there is a category here for golf. I'm pretty sure that when they made this, they were really thinking about a tool specifically to make models for games, because that's what they do. All the assets and the applications they make are game dev focused. So they have an entire section for golf, and golf games do, come into fad from time to time. Golf It, Golf with Friends, Golf with Your Friends. I think there's actually like two different versions. And then there is games like Mario Golf. So we're just going to do a quick golf course. We'll actually do a couple just so you get the idea of how to make the golf courses progressively more difficult. And by the way, this dot here, this is the center. This is the origin. So depending on how you're going to lay this out, you might want this the middle of your object. You might want it to be the end, the beginning. For our purposes, it doesn't matter. So you can just start with it says it's an end, but this is probably where the golf ball would begin. And then we could just take some straight. And then another end, this time the one with the hole. And as I said, we can do rotate. That's actually the wrong angle, the wrong axis. There we go. And the good news is if you make a mistake, it's really easy to undo. Unlike Blender where you might really break something, you're only like one rotation or two rotations away, and you can just do Control Z to undo. And so there you go. And you could always use a round one if you want instead, just so there's more variety. Maybe put in a flag. And there you go. You have your first golf course. Now, say you want something a little bit more complex, because obviously this would be a trial course just so people get used to aiming and the amount of force needed to make the ball go a certain distance. So let's move this one back. So as you can see, when you select a piece, there's basically two sets of tools. You have the arrows which let you move the object, and then you have the squares which let you scale the object. So we'll just move this back a bit. All right, so now maybe we want there to be like a hill, okay? So there's different slopes. So let's take this one, and it's facing the wrong direction. So what we do is we just rotate this, and now we'll take another straight, but now we have to raise it up, and it does line up nice and smoothly. And then we can take another slope and put it right there, and now you have a slightly more difficult course. Let's take this side and move this out, and we'll move the flag as well. And what you can do if you're trying to have like consistency and a very steady progression, what you can do is you make your first model, you export it, which we'll show you at the end, save that as a separate project, but then modify the initial course and add more to it. So if it's like your first game and you're trying to get a handle of how to do the difficulty curve, that's what I recommend is that have each course be based upon the previous course. So obviously you add more to it, and that helps you really track the difficulty, because when it comes to the challenge, it's the golf course. I mean, you could do some environmental things like maybe there's wind or rain or something, but generally it is the actual course itself that is the challenge. Okay, so let's take this one, we'll slide this over as well, and maybe we want there to be a gap here that you have to avoid. Well, they've got that. They've got this one. So now there's a gap they have to avoid. And we'll just put another straight one in front of it. There. So now it's a little bit more difficult. Now maybe you want there to be a windmill. Okay, those are typical for mini golf courses, and sure enough, they included one. So there's a few you can use. You've got this one, the double door. You've got this one, the single door. So the double door, this might encourage them to shoot around. So again, that in itself, it helps with the difficulty. Or if you want to kind of force them to be here so they can't do it in one shot, you would do this one. So again, think about the challenge that this poses. So this really forces them to shoot, but not too hard. Whereas with this one, this is already to the side of the hole. So be mindful of that, that depending on how you set this up, you might be negating one of your own traps. And that was just delete. Okay, so we're just going to put the windmill on top of it. And then we're just going to put the blade in front of that. Now, I do want to mention something that when we get to the end and we talk about exporting, anything that you want to be animated, like the blade is probably going to be spinning, because usually the blade spins in front of the hole. Those objects will need to be exported separately, because there is an option setting in export where it says, do you want to make this into one solid object? And generally speaking, the answer is going to be yes. You want your golf course to be a solid object. But if you did that, that means the blade will be combined with the windmill itself, and then that means you won't be able to rotate the blade. So be mindful of that. If you want something to have like its own animations, its own ability to move independently of other objects, then that means you really need to have it be its own object so you can apply rotation and things like that. Okay, now this blade doesn't do anything. It doesn't reach down here. So if you look at the dots here, if you click on one, you could scale this out. You can see I'm scaling it out 0.2. So to be consistent, 0.2, and then we can just realign this. And that probably would sweep in front of it, but if you have to, go out one more. And also, I want to point out that you can also make minute changes to this in the engine itself. So if you export this to Unity or something like that, you can make the changes there. So you don't have to be stuck with the rigid changes here. For some reason, that's not centered now. For some reason, did I not? There we go. Yep, no, looks like it's still off a little bit. For whatever reason, it's not centered now. And like I said, if you mess something up, you're never too far away from just fixing it. 1, 2, 1, 2. Yeah, so that looks properly centered this time. Okay, so I think that's almost it for the design because it's just, rinse and repeat. It's just building on this. Like you could do something where they could overshoot. So maybe take this one and we'll move this over 3. Move this one over 3. Move this one over. This one. Then let's actually move everything back one more. And now what we're going to do is we're going to put a corner here. So we have a couple to choose from, but we will use this one, the square corner, and it's facing the wrong direction unless you want them to come out over here and then back. So we'll just rotate that. We'll use a straight away. It's not rotated properly, so rotate. And then another one. Now, what I want to point out is this, that you can do a one-sided here. So what you could do is if you do, let's see, so this is one-sided. So you can rotate that. And then what you would want, actually, I think that's not the right one. We want a one-sided that has a little dot here and a little dot there. So this one here. So that's the split that we want. Like I said, they really thought this out to make sure that things fit together because there'd be a little gap in there and you wouldn't want that. At least I don't think you'd want that. And then we can take another straightaway and then maybe a dead end. And what you've done now is now you've given them the ability that you don't want them to, but now they can overshoot this. So again, you're putting in challenges. The course is the challenge, and it's about you using, the tools given, the player, I should say, giving the tools given to them to overcome the course. Like here, they don't want to overshoot, that kind of thing. So I think that's about it for the modeling. Let's just do a quick export, and then we'll jump over to Unity just so you can see it there. So File, Export Model. As I mentioned, merge block, so everything would be blocked, so we really wouldn't want the blade to be here because it wouldn't be animated. Export textures, yes. Export selection only. That would be an example where what you could do is you could select everything but the blade and then do a separate one where you only have the blade. So you'd export everything but the blade, and then you would do the opposite. You would export just the blade. And that's about it. The format, OBJ, FBX, either one is fine for Unity. You click on export, it's going to say where do you want to save it. You can save it directly into the Unity folder, and then we'll be right back. And here we are in Unity. So you can see the object is down here, course. You just take this and you drag it into the scene, and there you go. Now it's not very big because I don't know if I mentioned it earlier because I've actually tried to do a couple attempts at this video. But each block here in Asset Forge is equal to a single block in Unity. It's the same size. So this isn't actually very big, so you might find yourself needing to scale this. So Let's see. Well, there's a couple ways to scale. If you click on model, you can do like scale factor, 4. So it's much bigger now. So whatever works for you. Okay, so that's about it. So what I'll say is this. If you now want to see this turned into a game, let me know. I've already done 2 mini golf tutorials for this channel. I certainly don't want to waste your time if you watch those. But if you do want to see me turn this into a playable game, please like and comment. If there's enough likes, then I will definitely turn this into a game. But like I said, I've already done 2 mini golf games. They never got much traction, but I also never had really good courses. I never made the courses in Asset Forge because both of those predated me knowing about Asset Forge. So yeah, just leave a like if you want to, or a comment. Actually, not just a like. I won't know just from the like. So leave a comment if you want to see this be actually turned into a game, and I will do like a 2 or 3 part. It's pretty straightforward. You're just using some basic physics on the ball to make it work, as well as animating the windmill and then how to progress to the next board. So that's about it. So I hope you found this useful. And again, please leave a comment if you want to see this turned into a full game. And please enjoy the rest of your day.